Welcome to the Mission Manhood podcast, where mature masculinity is celebrated and encouraged. My name is Angela Abide, and I will be your host. Every week or so, I sit down with a man who is in the men's movement, helping men grow and thrive in their masculinity, someone who is exhibiting characteristics of mature masculinity, or someone who has a perspective that might be beneficial for those who are seeking to grow and develop in that area. As a woman, I have a unique perspective as a mother and a therapist, and I hope to contribute to the conversation in those ways. Thank you so much for joining, and I hope you enjoy the episode. Hey, I'm glad you're here. My guest on this podcast is Bryan Reeves. He wrote the book, Choose Her Every Day or Leave Her, a guide for your journey through the transformational fires of love and intimacy. It was a real treat to talk to Bryan. If you've been listening or following along, you know I like to talk a lot about the masculine and the feminine and the dance, and to talk with someone who's really wrestled with those concepts in his own personal life, not just in his mind as a concept, was so refreshing. And I found something that was on his website. It said that Bryan's goal as a coach is to serve the world one awakened man, one illuminated woman, and one thriving relationship at a time. And I thought, my goodness, I think he's broken it down into the nutshell of what is really important, not only in the world, but in our own heart and in our relationships, is that dance between the two. It's not one or the other. It's not masculine superiority or feminine superiority. It's recognizing the differences in the gifts of both the masculine and feminine, recognizing that we all house that masculine and feminine energy, and using that to the best of our ability to make ourselves and our relationships and the world a better place. Hello, Bryan.
Hi, Angela.
Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
You are someone that I've followed on Instagram for a while, and you've been very inspiring to me. It means a lot to me as a woman to have a man that's so invested in understanding that masculine-feminine relationship. So thank you for your work.
Yeah, well, thank you. It's really been at the invitation / command of women that I've really, if I want to live a good life, I've had no choice but to invest myself in learning this dance.
So before we kind of get into our conversation, can you tell people what you do, what your work is?
Sure. Yeah. For the last probably about 10 years, I'll just give the very short version of it. For the last 10 years, I've been a relationship coach working with couples, men and women, focused on intimate relationship, but a little bit of life coaching.
Mm-hmm.
It's all connected. But really, in the last couple, let's say 3 years, I've really started to drill in on working with men, supporting men, particularly in the domain of intimate relationship and intimacy with self as a foundation for intimacy with other. So now I'm really focusing on men, working with men, supporting men to thrive in that area.
I got your book, Choose Her Every Day or Leave Her, which is awesome.
Thank you.
How long ago was that published?
It was published, I think, just a year ago, a little over a year ago. Yeah, fairly recently, many years to write it, because I myself was on a journey of what that even means, to choose my partner every day. So yeah, that book, but it came out a year ago.
Yeah, I think that's one of my favorite things about the book is that you're not coming at it as this expert. You're really just showing everybody where you were bleeding and dying and suffering.
Yeah.
And, I think that really means a lot. And I'm always looking for resources for people. And I think this is definitely a great one. One of the things I really love about it too is you don't have to read it from cover to cover. You can just kind of like flip through. And if a chapter speaks to you, just really sit with that for a while.
Yeah, I'm really happy, deeply content with how I feel like this book is a capstone on
Mhm.
my own journey and my own, to your point, I start out, I mean, the very first chapter in the book is titled, "No One Ever Taught Me How to Be a Man." And I think, we're talking about intimacy and intimate relationship. And I think we have to start there as men. The recognition, the awareness that, my God, we're lost. We are
Yeah.
by and large lost. We don't even, in many cases, the ideas that we have around what does it mean to be a man, they're not serving us. And they're contributing to our fumbling in intimacy and our ignorance and our the catastrophes. Lord knows I've had some catastrophes in
Mhm.
intimate relationship, and starting in that place of, okay, here's where I've been. This is what I didn't understand. These were the mistakes I was making. This is the book really tracks my own journey into becoming a relationship coach and working with
Mhm.
couples, and a lot of the tools and practices and insights that served me, that whether I learned from my teachers or figured out through my own trial and error. So I think it is an interesting book that I'm really glad is
Yeah.
out there and people are benefiting from it.
I think that you using your own voice and also incorporating some of your actual stories
Yeah.
and your experience, that just makes it so relatable. And one thing that you posted recently that I thought was really funny, you said, "When I was 31, I said to my then girlfriend with great confidence and conviction, resounding in my voice, that I wanted our relationship to be effortless and magical."
Oh yeah.
And
That's
then
right.
you said, "We were already in the midst of an unfolding disaster that would torture us both for 5 years."
Oh yeah, yeah, that's true. I was so earnest and so sincere when I said that. I
Yeah.
want a magic. I mean, I don't know if I used the word effortless with her in that conversation, but that's basically what
But
I
that was
thought
your
magic
intention,
meant.
right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought magic means it's just magic. It's wonderful. It's effortless. It flows. Everything lines up. That's what I wanted. That's what I thought at 30 was possible. Like that's how relationships should be. And let's do that.
Mhm.
I had
Yeah.
no idea what I was talking about.
You just
No,
didn't have the skills or the tools that you needed
I
to
didn't have
make
the
that happen.
skills. I didn't have the tools. I didn't have the insights. I didn't have the understandings. I didn't have the modeling from my
Mhm.
elders. I had nothing. I just had this. I had the vague romantic notion, the popular fairy tale notion that I'm going to meet a woman and she is just going to complete me,
Yeah.
and it's going to be effortless and easy and always amazing, and right off into the sunset.
Yeah.
It's like I literally believed in that kind of fantasy at the
Mhm.
age of 30.
You talk a lot about the different relationships and things that you went through before you got to the point where that sort of superficial or maybe a mind desire got down into the intentional level,
Mm-hmm.
when you were ready to do whatever it took to get there and to call in this wonderful woman that is now your wife.
Yeah.
That was really cool to see someone's process and the
Yeah.
commitment to the journey. And even, sometimes just allowing yourself to be single and grieve that and just embrace that
Yeah.
as part of the journey as well.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to suck at love for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I just was committed to not sucking at commitment and being and showing. I just refused to believe that I'm destined to mess this up. And fortunately, I think I think these days that we have YouTube and Facebook, we have the
Yeah.
internet. I mean, I'm 47, when I was really starting on this journey into intimacy specifically, I'd been on a so-called spiritual path and seeking
Mhm.
and study for many, many years before that. But none of that taught me anything about how to do intimate relationship with a woman well. Eckhart Tolle, he's fantastic. He
Yeah.
says nothing about how to be with my partner. How do I
Yeah.
help my partner through an upset that I don't understand? His work tells me nothing about that.
Mhm. Yeah.
So at 36, so about 11 years ago, is when I someone handed me this book, Way of the Superior Man. That's an entry point for a lot of men, especially into this kind of path. And that book's by David Data, and that opened my eyes up to a whole new way of understanding. So yeah, the way I looked at it, the way I've come to see it is like Eckhart Tolle. He's great at teaching me, the yin and yang symbol. The yin and yang symbol is a circle, and inside that
Mhm.
circle there's these squiggly lines, a
Yeah.
yin and a yang, and there's a dot inside of each and all. Well, Eckhart Tolle and like Deepak Chopra and even Byron Katie, like all these amazing teachers
Yeah.
are great at teaching me at the level of the circle, the oneness of everything. Like everything is one,
Mhm.
that circle. They never taught me anything about what's going on inside that circle. What's that yin and yang thing all about? What are those little squiggly? What are they doing? David Deda's book, Way of the Superior Man, was my entry into that exploration. And that just was a whole new world of awareness and understanding and new understanding that I started to see all my past debacles, catastrophes, all the past pain and suffering that I had both experienced and caused in others,
Mhm.
women in my case. And I started to understand it in a whole new light. It's like a map was opened up for me on the path of intimacy. And I write about a lot of that in this book as well, that journey from ignorance to, I love what Esther Perel says. There's no such thing as experts when it comes to relationship. There's no relation. They're just people who've thought about it a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And walked it out. And
exactly. And they have some things to share. We have things to share. We have lessons we've learned and tools we've learned, et cetera. But expert, I don't know about that.
one thing that has occurred to me, and I think that's a perfect segue into your book, the sharing of what you've learned, is that people that are going to be really interested in this episode are either single, sometimes even painfully single, desiring a relationship, or the people that are, this kind of conversation makes them kind of sick because they feel like they're already committed and they're in a relationship that's not satisfying to them. And my thought, just before we dig into this, is that this will help you either way. If you're in a relationship, you can do this same work and see if there's anything left at the end of the day. It's not just for people who are seeking or desiring love. It's for people who don't want to suck at love.
Not at all.
Whether you're married or single.
Oh, absolutely. And nor is it just for men. I mean, I'm running
Yes.
I'm running a men's group right now with 13 men in it for the year. My Elevate 2022 journey, and I think of those 13 men, 4 or 5 of them said that their wives bought the book for themselves, read the book, left it around the house somewhere. The guy kind of picked it up and started nosing through it and thought, "Holy shit, this is me. I resonate with this." So.
Yeah, I think to your point there, as a woman, there's so much in here that feels validating, that feels like, wow, of course, that's why I was upset about that.
Yeah.
You explaining what the feminine needs, it's like, wow, yeah, I really did need that. Maybe that's why it wasn't working out. I agree that women can benefit as well. And also with the couples, I think these chapters could be great conversation starters or great date night. Like you pick one chapter one week and I'll pick the chapter the next week, and we can just kind of do a deep dive and see what comes up for us. I think it would be great for that reason too. One of the things that stood out, the book is divided into 3 different sections.
Yes.
And in the first section, you have how to compliment a woman. I thought maybe we could talk just a little bit about that. And strangely enough, it came up today. I made a comment on somebody's Instagram post about it. Somebody was talking about taking the risk and not being afraid to reach out or compliment a woman.
Yeah.
And I made the point that just because I just read this in your book, thank you very much. I didn't give you credit for it, but it's like approach her without wanting anything.
Yeah. And
I wondered if you could say a little bit about that.
Yeah. The book is divided into 3 parts, as you said. The first part is preparation. Preparation for intimacy with another. And that chapter about how to compliment a woman, I wrote that shortly after there was this viral video around that time. I don't remember when this was. It was some years back. This video went viral of a woman walking in New York. Her boyfriend was secretly filming her from the front. And we saw we heard all of the cat calls, all of the the sticky compliments that men were throwing at her. By sticky, I mean they wanted something. It wasn't really in service of her. It was in service. The compliments were offered in service of what they wanted from her. So I wrote this chapter at that time in reflection of that, and I wanted to really speak to the importance of. And this is a foundational practice for real love, the capacity to offer a gift that I have, even if it's my observation, that you are beautiful, but it's not a gift if I want something in return. And so much of intimate relationship gets bogged down in those expectations. It isn't given freely. It's sticky. It's given
It's
with
transactional.
it's transaction. Great word for it. It's transactional. I'll give you this, but you need to give me something back.
Yeah.
And if you don't give it to me back, then screw you. I may even lash out. Even as simple as, I like your smile. What, you're not going to say thank you?
Yeah.
What, you're not going to, that's it's gross. It's very adolescent. It's not loving whatsoever. And it's so subtle. As a preparation practice, that chapter was very important to me. I have three sisters and two mothers, mom and a stepmom. I've grown up hypersensitive to men taking things from the women that in my immediate family. So hypersensitive to that I think that's sort of a natural sensitivity. Now, I may have gone to the other extreme, and that's part of my journey as well, being the guy that just would never want anything. So you don't have to give me anything. Well, that has its own shadow. That's preparation. We're preparing for intimacy by learning to give our gift without expecting anything in return, even a thank you.
The men that would listen to a podcast or read a book are really good men who are trying. They want to be better. And for a lot of those men, they can't even relate to what a woman faces out there in public. They can't imagine themselves behaving that way. So it's hard for them to even understand what's going on. But to your point, I think that sincerity and leading with like a gift to give, like I see how you were treating that lady. That was so nice of you. Or, even if it's something about her appearance, just wow. Because the feminine enjoys that, but it's your intention of that wanting to get something back. And
I wanted to speak to that for a moment because I agree with you 100%. I mean, I fit that profile. Well, I would never do that. So I can't imagine other guys. How does that happen? Like, really, that happens? But there were so many other ways in which I was being transactional that were far more subtle. Perhaps just, I'm dating a woman. Well, I'm here, aren't I? What the hell do you, if I'm going to be with you, you need to want nothing from me, right? That's a transactional, look, I'm showing up, I'm here. Don't be angry. You're not allowed to be upset because I'm here. That's another way of like, I'm going to give you my presence, but in return, don't give me your upset. Don't give me your frustration. Don't give me your drama.
Yeah. You owe me your happiness.
You owe me your happiness. Exactly. You owe me peace of mind. So it may not have come out in these other overt, catcalling in the street ways, but boy, it's, and so many of us men who maybe don't do it over here, we do it over there.
And another way I see it show up a lot is that physical touch turns into foreplay. And for men, if you can just like make hundreds of deposits of physical touch, if that's what your woman likes, without any expectation.
Another great example. Absolutely.
You, in the end, will get a lot more of what you want because your woman will be able to relax and feel like you're nurturing or caring for her.
Yeah, 100%.
You said men are powerful and a man connected to his heart radiates power like the sun. I love that image. And I think so many times men kind of shrink back. They're sort of afraid of the feminine, but if they could just take it on and step into their vulnerability or their presence.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about, there's so much depth into what you're pointing at there. And I think that I write about that in the context of where men usually source our power from is in either our brain or our balls, right? Either just all brain, logical rumination power, or pure primal testosterone driven, I'm going to conquer power. And our elders don't teach us how to really live in heart. Maybe on the football field, leave it all out on the field, guys. You got to have heart. You got to want to win. But really, they're talking about the power again from our balls. You gotta just force through. You gotta want to win the game. Man up. Don't feel anything. Actually, you can't feel your tiredness. Don't feel your fatigue. Don't feel your fear. Just leave it all out there. And that's not the power that I'm talking about. I'm not talking about abandoning that power. I mean, brain power, ball power, it's all It's
Mm-hmm.
all, I'm talking about integrating heart power, right? And again, what do we mean by that? That's a long conversation, but I would just say, heart power is really learning. I think for me, the way I access so-called heart power is I breathe. I
Mm-hmm.
settle myself. I'm checking in with myself, really exploring in the moment what's happening for me, and wanting to bring my vulnerability. I mean, that's heart power, is being vulnerable, not with an
Mm-hmm.
agenda, but with a genuine willingness to be seen and to
Yeah.
connect. There's so much more I could say about that,
I
but
think it kind of goes back to that radiates power like the sun. There is not a formula for this. And so that's the temptation. You have that feeling in your balls, and your brain is trying to figure out how to get that satisfied that you
yeah,
completely bypass your
yeah,
heart.
yeah,
But that's the
yeah,
portal to her. A genuine connection to her
yeah.
is to meet her there.
Absolutely. And look, I'm 6 years into a relationship with my wife, and it's still a journey for me. I'm still every day learning and practicing. I have a very active brain.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to be very loyal to my logic.
Yeah.
That only gets me so far, and it usually doesn't serve me well with my wife.
Yeah.
Likewise, if I let my balls do all the talking, well, she's not going to feel very appreciated. She's going to feel used. So, I'm daily in the practice of not disconnecting from my balls or ignoring what my brain wants to offer or suggest or try to figure out, but taking those almost just like advisors at a council table,
Yes. Yes. I love
and
that.
then checking in, feeling into what does my woman need, what's happening for her, what state is she in, how can I offer my love, whether that might mean my logic sometimes, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe she just needs pure raw sexual power,
Yeah.
but how can I bring all of me to her so that she is genuinely filled,
Yeah.
she feels connected, she feels safe, she
Yeah.
feels cherished, she feels chosen, right? The name of the book, choose her
Mm-hmm.
every day. Doesn't mean try to fuck her every day. It doesn't mean try to solve her problems for her every day, right? That's what most men think. Like, well, I want to fuck you. I want to be with you. What do you want from me?
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
or I'm trying to solve all your problems. I can save you. I can just do what I say. Just listen to what I say. See it the way I see it. That's not choosing her every day. That's trying to satisfy yourself in her presence. But choosing her means tuning into her. What does she need from
Yeah.
you that you uniquely can offer her?
You said in chapter 53, that's called The Sexiest Three Words a Woman Can Say to a Man. You said, I know what you're thinking, but no, let's have sex are actually not the three sexiest words a woman can say to a man.
Uh-huh.
That just reminds me of what you were just saying. But that dance, because to your point, sometimes a woman wants to be ravished. That's
Right.
part of it. But
Yeah.
a man can be a shapeshifter and learn to discern what that moment's calling for.
Absolutely.
And that's the beauty, and that's the power of that masculine leadership.
I think it's the height of a man's mastery. A woman's, for that matter, too. It's not just exclusive to men, but I'm a man. I'm speaking of a man's experience, and by the way, man, obviously, I don't speak for all men or even any man. I
Of
speak for
course,
myself.
right, right, right.
But I do believe in working with men all these years. I think that the height of our mastery is not just having my way with the world. It's that distinction, power over versus power with. Learning to be in partnership with the world, partnership with whether that's my intimate partner. I think of hunters from times past, hunters
Mm-hmm.
who, I mean, this still happens. They're so attuned to the environment. They're tracking not just tracks, but they're listening to bird language. They're
Mm-hmm.
feeling they're feeling the wind. They're so attuned to the environment. They're in partnership with the
Yeah,
environment. They're not just out there stomping around saying, I need to kill an animal. That just chases them away. They hear you and they go. What's the same
yeah,
with my woman? If I'm stomping around saying, I need to have sex, or I need you to just be happy, or I need you to just get over your shit, well, the opposite happens. She just spirals into her own upset more and more. The disconnect grows, and she doesn't want to be around me. She doesn't feel safe. She's not going to be able to relax and open to me when when I'm out there stomping around with my spear, demanding, or manipulating for what I want versus what she really needs. And yeah.
You have a really beautiful part, the chapter about the king, and it was in part 2. Was it the movie about King Arthur and how he encountered the wizard, and just that willingness to face the dragon and continually get beat down, and at the end of it you actually get what you want, but it's that trial by fire.
Yeah, I think in that I talk about the role of the feminine as well in a man's coming into manhood. I think something really beautiful about that movie was that he had a confrontation, right? Here at King Arthur, he's this young boy. Well, and he's not a young boy. He's actually a young man.
Yeah.
But he's still acting very adolescent. He doesn't want to take any responsibility for anything beyond himself. He's very self-centered and selfish. He doesn't really care. He's not trying to contribute to his community or show up for anybody other than just himself. Of course, life doesn't tolerate that for long. He runs into confrontations with that require him to face himself, and he doesn't want to do it. There is I believe it's been a long time, but I think it was a female character, some kind of female wizard.
Yeah, a wizard
who was female in the movie, and she, in her presence, he has no choice. Like, she keeps the tests come at him. And it's like either he is going to overcome these challenges or he's going to die. He just can't stay where he is anymore because
she
life
keeps turning it up,
turning up the heat, up the heat. Exactly.
Yeah.
I work with so many men, and this often starts to happen for men in our late 30s or 40s. This tends to be when men start to really run into what I call the limits of their adolescence, late 30s, early 40s, because it's like a clock, a biological clock. Traditionally we would be going through these rites of passage in our teens, traditionally, but we don't do that. Our culture doesn't allow for that. We really reward boys and men for adolescent behavior for a very long time, indefinitely, really. You speak to this a lot better than I could, Angela, but there's a knowing in a woman, like, okay, you're too old to be still acting like a child.
Yeah.
And my girlfriend in my early 30s, which she would often tell me, you're more like a boy than a man. Now, this was not very kind. It was not skillful. It was not helpful. But she was pointing at something that at the time I didn't understand. And she was right. Because I didn't want to take responsibility. I was very still in my adolescence. And interestingly, it was 36. I was 36 years old when she and I finally broke up. And that began, I'm 47 now, and these last 11 years really have been from 36 years old and that breakup. And, I'm now 6 years into a marriage that I think is beautiful, and it ain't easy all the time, but it is beautiful. And it is magic. I want to say it is magic, but not the way I thought it would be magic, 20 years ago. It's magic because we both take responsibility. We're adults in the relationship. We don't expect the other to be our savior. We don't expect the other to just make it easy. In fact, we're both very hard-headed and opinionated and powerful, passionate beings, Sylvie and I. But we know how to bring that as gifts to the relationship, not as impositions on the relationship.
Another point to that is, it sounds like, just based on the little bit I read in your book, that you came together as complete people. You were working on becoming whole and healthy, and then when you came together to make this intimate partnership, you weren't counting on the other person so much to meet those needs.
There's some truth to that, and there's also not some truth to that, because yes, both of us had been doing personal growth work, had been learning on our own, had been working to build, our individual foundations for our lives. And when I met Sylvie, I was 41 when I met her, and I kind of thought, yeah, I'm good. I'm so good. I don't need a woman anymore. Like, I'm good. Yeah. If I don't find one for the rest of my life, that's okay. And because I felt complete. And when I met her, I still thought that. But within a matter of months, oh my God, all the stuff that I didn't have to look at when I was single, when I was alone, I didn't have to examine, like in my own self, all of the still the shadow, the blind spots, the shadow wounds, all of the stuff that, again, it just doesn't get triggered. It doesn't get brought up if I'm single, if I don't have
Yeah.
anyone in my face every day. Oh boy, here it came. So I think that there's great value in, when you're single, doing personal growth work, doing therapy, working with a coach, going to workshops, try whatever it is, anything that be on that exploration. It is preparation for a relationship, but make no mistake, when you meet the person that you want to build a life with, it's going to get messy. Stuff's going to come up that you just cannot even see. You can't touch when you're alone. An essential part of our human journey to wholeness, if you will, must come in relationship with another.
You know what? I'm glad you said that. And I had thought before we actually did this episode, I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about loneliness and how hearing about attracting your person or completeness as a human comes through relationship. And then for the people who, despite their best efforts, can't find that. And
Yeah.
I know you went through, I mean, you talk profoundly about your depth of loneliness in the book.
Yes. Yeah.
So maybe it would be nice to hear what you say to those people.
When I was single, there was a 6-year gap between my previous relationship and meeting Sylvie. Now, I dated a lot in the time in between, but I tried everything. I'm a relationship person. I like to be in relationship, even though it challenges me in many ways, but I prefer being in relationship. While I was single, I tried everything. I did all the online dating. I went to the places where I thought, I'd share similar interests with somebody. I got set up by friends. I tried everything, and it just wasn't happening. I met even amazing women that on paper and everything was like, yes, we should be partners. Mm-hmm. But it was either a no for her or it was a no for me in our, that deepest place of knowing, like, this should be yes, but it's a no. And, my partnership with Sylvie happened about 3 months. I met her about 3 months after I finally just fully surrendered to being single. And when I say that, I mean, I even did a video about this. I called it, I'm committed single. This also speaks to a practice that I do regularly, personally, and I teach sometimes. I call it command and surrender. I know I wanted to be in a relationship. I want to be in a relationship. I want to build a life with a woman. I was all in on that experience. And I was finally fully surrendered to that never happening. Like, if that just never happens, if it ain't in the cards for me, I'm willing for it. It's not what I want, but I'm willing for it. And I think that was the missing ingredient for me, that genuine willingness, not the pretend willingness. Okay, like I hear, the one you want comes when you stop looking for him. Okay, so I close my eyes and stop looking. And meanwhile, I'm peeking through my fingers. Is she there? Wait, I'm not looking. Yeah. Is she there? I'm not looking. That's not true surrender. True surrender is the full-on surrender to, like, it's the full-on embrace of, if life doesn't want me to have an intimate partner, to have that experience, yes, I'm willing for it.
You're letting go of that attachment to that being an ingredient for a happy life.
I mean, in a way, I desire it. It's not. I'm not letting go of the desire.
Right. Just I can still have a happy, whole, full life, and I'm going to let that, because so many people put that as a condition of a happy life. Right. Like, I have to be in partnership with someone,
and I don't want to fault them for that. I mean, it's. I think this is one of the great existential questions. I mean, I feared this. I feared dying without ever really knowing love, without ever fully offering the depths of my heart. I feared that. I didn't want to die not having had that experience. But on the other hand, well, if I die, I'm dead. So I'm fine at that point. I'm all good. Yeah. Like, I don't know that happened. Anyway, I think it's a deep and rich question. I think a lot of in this world of pop culture manifestation work, I think people can get
Yeah.
really cutesy and say, well, you just have to manifest it. You just have to do it this way and see it in your mind's eye and it'll come for you. And I just don't know if that's true.
I call bullshit every day. I just think
Yeah.
it's just in your face all the time.
Yeah.
It's just a way to get clicks and likes, and it sounds good.
And I think it's, again, a very adolescent approach to living.
Yeah.
It's a very naive and adolescent, sort of idealistic. And that's part of a hallmark of adolescence is idealism. I'm going to save the world. I can save the world. I can save me, or someone will save me. I mean, life just proves that doesn't happen. So I think for me, that practice of the willingness, cultivating the willingness to not have the thing that I think I need to have, doesn't mean I don't stop wanting it.
Yeah. Just be where you are.
Being where you are.
The story of when you got to that point where you actually did meet Sylvie. Yeah. It was kind of interesting to me that it was like you had your own version of that wizard. Do you want this or do you want that?
Yeah.
The choice that you ultimately made all the difference. I think that's cool when you're in that walk of faith or just going after that deeper journey.
I think the title of that, where the chapter where I tell that story, is How I Met Sylvie by Choosing Love Over Fear. I think that's the title, something like that. And I didn't meet Sylvie. I mean, on one hand, life is such a paradox. On one hand, I feel like I got lucky in meeting her. On the other hand, I met her through years of practice, through years of cultivating a way of being in the world and of choosing love over fear. Not all the time, but at least in the really important times, and cultivating that as a practice, so that if you read that chapter and you hear what happened, it's magic. That word, magic.
You get the sense that the stars aligned.
They really did.
That it was a cool story.
They did. And again, it's that was an expression of me being in partnership with life, not trying to have power over life, but being in partnership with life.
Okay. That brings up something really big. I always try to tell people, and this is really hard for men to grasp, is that you are dancing in your heart, you're dancing in your relationships, and you're dancing with like life, the great mother. And without that partner, you were left with dancing, trying to get that feminine, masculine right in your heart, but also surrendering to life and having a good life regardless. And I love that it gave that gift back to you in a way, like you surrendered it and it came back to you.
Definitely. Well, even in that time of my meeting her, I was in the middle of nature. I was in the middle of the mountains in Idaho. And that was not the place that I thought I was going to meet my wife, my future wife. Quite the opposite. I thought I was giving myself that experience. I was single, and had I stayed where I was, it would have been more of just that a choosing of fear, of masculine, what I call shallow. I don't like toxic masculinity, but certainly shallow masculinity. The idea that I'm gonna exert my will over life, and I that just was such a no for me. So I left and I went into the wild, commune with nature, mountains and meadows, and I met Sylvie there.
Leading up to that, you were faced with a decision that we were talking about earlier, made so much sense to your mind. Like it fit the formula, right?
Totally. Oh yeah.
And you chose against that to honor your heart. There was something in your heart that was just begging you to get away. And when you said yes to your heart and no to that formula, that's when the floodgates kind of opened.
Yeah, that's it. My brain and my balls were both like, no, stay in LA, take advantage of this opportunity. Are you kidding me? This is could be major for you. But my heart, everything in everything else, my whole body was just tingling. My heart was like, no, get out of here. You have to leave and just go. That's the path. And I trusted that. I mean, look, I delayed a day, but I was like, I gotta go. And I went, and and I know because I came alive in that. That's the path for me. I came alive. I could feel it. Oh, the opening and the aliveness. And, a week later on that journey, I had my first conversation with Sylvie.
It was an awesome story. I loved it.
Thank you.
One thing that you talk about a lot throughout the book are these different stages. You kind of opened with that.
Yeah.
And the book is divided into 3 sections. But I wanted to go back to even the very start of your book. And you talk about the evolution of intimacy.
Yeah.
And it made so much sense to me. And it kind of helped me to think about how in the future I'm going to maybe help men understand this. But the first stage is like sexual intimacy is just body. And
Right.
then the next stage is like a mind body, like just the
Yeah.
body enough wasn't enough. You
Right.
wanted that
Yeah.
mind connection.
Yeah.
And then ultimately that led to your mind, body, and spirit
Yeah.
connection with your partner. This kind of ties into that last story is you said in your book that the job of the feminine really is to push you toward love, to push you toward what's really important. Because in our mind, we think it's one thing.
Yeah.
And just surrendering to love. I think a lot of men, instead of realizing that's a natural progression, like when your woman is dissatisfied, it's because it's time for you to level up. And we kind of touched on this before, but when you first get together, I mean, just holding hands ignites your whole body. And
Mm-hmm.
then over time, she's going to want a little more. Basically, she's saying you can be better. And I think if men can face that dragon and face the challenge and level up, it's just a continual growth. And then that connection just keeps getting deeper.
Yeah. Well, I think it's helpful for men to be clear, at least with ourselves. What do we want? If I'm just wanting physical pleasure, where I got in trouble on my journey is I didn't know that that was what was happening. I didn't
Yeah.
know, that really I was in that first stage of just pure body attraction, which I think especially just hormonally in our teens and 20s and
Yeah. It's
perhaps
just
a lot of our
fire.
30s. It's just fire. Like our
Yeah.
bodies, they want to reproduce. They want to put babies into the next generation. I used to sort of joke with my girlfriend in my early 30s because we were a mess together. But we were incredibly attracted to each other. And I used to joke that, well, we're together because our bodies want to create another body. That's why we're together. Again, I had no idea what I was talking about, but she was a wonderful person, but I wasn't attracted to her mind. I wasn't, or her spirit. But there was an agitation within me that wanted to have that experience. And when our relationship ended, the mind of a woman became far more meaningful to me, far more important. In my case, what that looked like is I wanted a woman who was very growth oriented, whose mind was very open and curious about the world. That became extremely important to me in a way that in my 20s and it just wasn't. Didn't care about that stuff. Again, this is
But I mean, I think if you're single and all you want is sex, that's one thing.
sure.
But if you're in a relationship, if you're in a partnership, or if you're married to someone and you're wanting more sex than you're able to have, it would kind of make sense to try to back up and try to figure out how can I get what I want by giving her what she needs to get to that point.
Well, I'm always a fan of in relationship tuning in, learning to attune to what our partner needs and wants. Not that relieves them of their responsibility to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
It certainly doesn't. I think that when two people in a relationship together are engaged in attuning, checking in, what do they need? What's happening for them? When both people are engaged in that inquiry, ongoing, that's magic. It doesn't mean things don't get difficult or sometimes we stumble or have breakdowns, of course. But just that is a consistent practice. Oh man, that's relationship magic right there.
And you said earlier, I don't speak for all men, and I feel the same way. I don't speak for all women. And, a lot of the things that we talk about that the feminine usually desires, that doesn't mean that's meaningful to your particular woman.
Right.
And so for the men listening, I think it's so important to check in, to read the room, to ask the questions. And, even like we said earlier, maybe get the book and take turns picking chapters and just go on that journey of discovery to figure out what it is that your partner does need or want, male or female.
100%. I'll just give you a quick example of that. A lot of men, coaches, even when they get stuck on this whole masculine, feminine thing and they really genderize it or suggest that all women want to be taken care of or they want to be. My wife, for example, when we go to dinner, she does not like it when I order for her.
Oh, really?
That might be a tip that a dating coach or a masculine, feminine coach might insist a man do for, or even a masculine person do for a feminine person like that. You just, order for them. My wife does not like it. She's actually feels very offended by it. right? She feels like I'm taking her voice from her. And so, but I didn't know that at first. I had to learn that over time. I mean, and when I say over time, I mean years. Not because I would always do that, but sometimes, I'm pretty strong mothers. I'm used to women saying what they want and doing their thing. I always open the door for her. She loves that, but I won't order for her because she doesn't love that.
That's a perfect example. Well, I wanted to just close with something that you wrote that I thought was really, really beautiful. And it's that deep in the marrow of your masculine core, you know you did not come here to play safe and pass time, simply scoring goals and notches on your bedpost or making money and fragile monuments to your pride. You came here to throw down with life, to get bloody and muddy earth all over your soul as you charge gallantly each day beyond the edges of your hard-earned comfort zone. That's a great challenge.
Thank you. Yeah, I dug deep for that one. I wrote that chapter over candlelight over about the course of a week. Just really meditated and deep because the last one.
It's part of the ending.
I think, look, all men. Again, I apologize if, man, you're listening and this doesn't speak to you. I believe that all men in our core of cores, we want to succeed at the greatest adventures of our life. Not just succeed, but triumph. And intimate relationship is certainly, if we put ourselves upon it, one of, if not the most greatest adventure in our life. It certainly can be. Climbing Mount Everest is nothing. You can do that in a couple months. You can hire people to help you do it and stand on the top of you. If you have enough money and some time, fine. You can do that within a year. But an intimate relationship is a Mount Everest that has no peak that we can climb for the rest of our lives, that can be perilous at any moment. And it is a container within which we men can find our highest mastery as heart-centered, courageous men. I love doing intimate relationship work because of that, because I believe that the subtitle to the book is a guide for your journey through the transformational fires of love and intimacy. And relationship is a crucible, a container within which we men, I believe, can truly come into our greatness.
You said earlier that you didn't want to die without facing that, without having that great adventure. And I think so many men today they criticize for this and criticize for that, and they back off and they don't know how to be. And you said this too: I know what's been asked of you in this lifetime isn't easy, but if you're ready to claim your birthright as a king amongst kings, a heart-centered warrior, protector of the planet, and all things true and good and beautiful, then it's time you learn how to love a wild woman in her deliciously untamable fullness. And the great mother in me wants to knight you with that. I mean, that.
Thank you.
That is absolutely the truth.
Thank you. And it is not a destination that I arrive at. It is a practice I engage in daily.
And that willingness to get up and keep entering the arena. So
that's right.
Thank you so much for your time and your wisdom. And I appreciate it.
Thank you, Angela. It's funny you actually use that word arena, because in work that I'm now doing with and for men, I have a new program called Elevate Your Relationship for Men. And one of the containers we create in that, we call it the relationship arena.
Okay.
We read that Theodore Roosevelt quote, the great arena quote. It's the men who are marred by dust and sweat and blood who keep showing up in the arena, who even when they fail, I'm murdering this quote, but everyone knows that quote.
We know that one.
We know that one. We call that the container, the arena, because this is where men step in and we face our stuff. We receive challenge, but also support. It's a training grounds. I think a lot of men are cynical and afraid of relationship. And I think that's a tragedy, because we can thrive in intimate relationship, but we just need new insights and skills and practices to get there.
Yeah. So your book's a good place to start. And will you tell people where they can reach you, like online, or what's the best way to do that?
My website, it's Bryan with a Y, Bryan Reeves, REEVES.com. I mean, my book is there. It's also on Amazon. I'm on all the social medias, even these days, TikTok, which I swore I'd never be on TikTok, but now I'm on TikTok. Same, you too?
Yeah, I just started that too.
Okay. So TikTok, Instagram, but Bryan with a Y, Reeves.com is a place where you can find me.
So do you want to do a TikTok dance challenge? I'm kidding. I'm not dancing on TikTok.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I'm ready for that.
I'm teasing. Yeah. Well, it's nice to meet you and talk with you, and thank you.
Likewise, Angela. Thank you so much for hosting a beautiful conversation and important.